We can all relate to moments when we felt like we belong where we work, but unfortunately, there'll also be moments where we've experienced the feeling of not belonging. And unless people feel they belong in the chemical sciences, they're unlikely to thrive. That's why we've commissioned the first ever study of chemical scientists' lived experiences of this. In this video, members of our advisory group who helped shape the project discuss the findings of the research as well as sharing their own powerful lived experiences. Here's what they had to say.
Having spoken to students in my own university, I understand that sometimes there are very small things that can make a significant difference to a student's experience. And this doesn't necessarily mean having a whole infrastructure, but even just comments, simple comments by academics or by teachers can actually make a big difference in the sense of belonging.
Yeah, definitely. Small comments make a massive difference, and small actions also. You know, for example, it's inappropriate to walk around touching my hair. Just small things like that make you feel quite uncomfortable. And yeah, just educating yourself on how to approach these certain situations is probably best.
And if we think about, the effect, how the effect of belonging has or has had on you, what would you say? And I'm going to start from Ross this time.
So for me, the sense of belonging has made me feel excited and really, wanting to get up of a morning to come to work and solve those complex technical challenges. And it's also improves my positive mental attitude as well. And I'm a big believer in positivity drives success. So if the team are positive, then the work will be positive. So for me, it's all been about that increased positive mental attitude.
I think a bit like Ross, I think belonging has let me keep going. And like Ross, I've experienced some hard times at work. And belonging, when I felt I belonged to the RSC, which I was very nervous about joining, but once I did feel I belonged, people were incredibly supportive. And when I was facing hard times at work, a couple of different ways, people were saying, no, it's not you. It's about your workplace. You're fine. You're doing well. Rethink where you do what you're doing. And I think that sort of affirmation is really, for me, important about belonging. And so I hope that I give other people that sense of affirmation as much as I relied on it. I don't think I'd still be in chemistry, to be honest, if I hadn't had that sense of belonging at some of those most damaging and difficult points in my working life.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I think I also share this feeling because I went through a period of time, probably as long as 10 years in my career, especially when I had children, and therefore, balancing the work-life balance and the family was quite challenging. I had, a feeling of not belonging because I didn't see that many people having these challenges like me. And that made a big difference. And that's, something that has remained with me and shaped how I behave with other people now that, of course, I'm a little bit older and I did continue. So I do feel that I belong, although I can assure you I continue to have imposter syndrome almost on a daily basis. So, okay, Symiah.
I think it gives you confidence, and when you have confidence, then you can be good at what you are meant to be good at. You're good at your job and you're good at doing your research. And I think that's why it's so important to make sure people feel like they belong, because you get the most out of them once they do feel comfortable and they are confident that they belong there.
And can I ask you, Symiah, because you're about to, starting now a PhD, right? So starting this PhD is an important journey, and so you must feel that you belong in that environment. Is there one thing you can highlight that has given you the confidence to start on this journey?
Yeah, a lot of guidance and mentorship to say not only that this journey was feasible for me, which was really crucial because I didn't know that this opportunity, me doing the PhD, was even feasible a good couple of years ago. But not only that, but to give guidance and steps on how to do that. So members of the RSC have been very important in making sure that I do feel I have the skills and I'm equipped to do so, and giving me the mentorship to do so.
So I'm going to keep you, Symiah, on the spot with the next question. So what do you think? And I know, so far you've had a positive journey, but as you said, you've gone through maybe moments like everybody where you didn't feel so confident that you actually belong. So what do you think the effect can be of not belonging?
I think that when people don't belong, they leave. And that might be very short term, so they can't stand it and they just leave immediately, or it might take them the years to leave. But what happens once they leave, you lose talent, you lose contributions. And I think that's the danger of not allowing people to feel like they belong, because eventually they will leave.
Yeah. And Jane, what do you think? What have you seen? What have you observed that can be the effect of not belonging?
I think that people just disengage, because I think it's hard if people are made to feel they don't belong, and I think that made to feel is important, because I think they do belong. It's just that they're not getting the right messages about belonging. I think they disengage. I think many of them just slip away under our radar. And I think it's where we probably, as a community, maybe get away with stuff because people don't feel able to fight back, to call out bad practice. That takes exceptional strength and determination. And I just think we lose them. But I think the loss is as much ours as the individuals, because we lose everything they could have contributed to our whole operations, our lives professionally and maybe personally. Maybe they'd have been good friends. We just don't get to know them that well until we do something like the study of the pipeline, and we saw how we were losing women. And when we started to quantify the loss, then suddenly people, all these people who should feel able to be here don't.
Yep. Yeah.
But it takes a long, long time and a really huge problem before people actually stop and look at it, carefully in a researched and evidenced way.
Thank you, Jane. Yeah, I think also we know that, diversity and diverse communities in any environment, in any setting, make a huge difference. It brings a better result. It improves creativity. It provides a better environment, and it leads to more success. So sometimes I think that people that feel that do not belong, they might decide to leave. Okay, but sometimes and quite often people maybe don't have the opportunity to leave. Maybe they stay and they remain silent. And I think that is significantly damaging for not just the individual, but for the whole community.
Yeah, just to build on a couple of points Jane raised there, I've witnessed the team becoming demotivated and individuals becoming demotivated as well, which has a knock-on effect. And also a lot of sadness as well. It's not a nice feeling within teams when you see that people don't belong. And as somebody that's been in a leadership position in the past, it's been really difficult to have those conversations because of the sadness. And also self-doubt. I think self-doubt's a big point, because we've witnessed a lot of talented individuals leave the company because they feel like they don't belong. But it's also been nice to see them get on elsewhere, but we could have utilised that talent if would have created that sense of belonging.
Now I'm going to ask you a little bit more about your personal journey. And I want to focus about, what do you think has helped, or in the case of Symiah, what will help you to feel and increase your own sense of belonging to the chemical sciences?
So for me, it's firstly being confidence as I've travelled throughout my career. That's been a big help, but also to be fearless as well. So starting off in my career, I was a gay man and also joining the chemical sciences. So I had it coming from different angles where I felt like I didn't belong. So with the confidence, I had to be fearless and ask those challenging questions to allow myself to fit in. And I feel like that's been the big highlight in my career, and it's been well recognised that I am fearless and I will push myself out of my comfort zone, and I will stand up and talk in front of crowds of people. Even though I still have the imposter syndrome, the fearlessness is still apparent on my face.
Was there an individual or a group of individuals that helped you in this, or do you think that was just part of your character, or is part of your character?
I think both, really. So it's part of my character because I am very outgoing and I'm personable and I can get on with different groups of people. But also I do have a mentor within the business who's a senior leader. And when I was asking questions about, I don't think this is for me, he boiled it down to why. And then that made, even though I was asking myself the why in my brain, why do I feel this way? Somebody else saying it to me actually made me realise, actually, I do belong.
Thank you, Ross. And Symiah?
Yeah, just to add on to that, I think being objective with yourself, I think it's quite easy when you get this feeling of not belonging, it's really emotional and it's easy to get wrapped up into that emotional feeling. But actually to step back and look at the situation, be objective and be like, actually, I've done this, this and this, and this is why I deserve to be in this room. And we're all chemists together, so that's why we are all sat together. And that kind of helps with the sense of belonging, but also just talking to other people and realize that loads of other people don't feel like they belong. So realizing that if no one belongs here, then we all don't belong together. So that's my two strategies.
Yeah, okay, that's a brilliant strategy, and it is actually an interesting one because in my case, I recognize that when you choose to pursue an academic career in chemistry, certainly in the UK, being a woman meant that there weren't that many role models. I was very, very fortunate because when I joined the department where I am at the moment, I had a colleague who was older than me. She was a professor in chemistry, and she had a family. And I found that her support and her advice has helped me a lot, because the reality is that when you find yourself in an environment where there are different models, of colleagues that are working 16 hours a day, 7 days a week, and you have 2 young children to cater for, and you have your research group, trying to find a balance makes you constantly feel unable, and therefore you start doubting yourself that maybe that is not for you, this is not the environment for you, you're not going to succeed. So having a positive role model that constantly reassured me, and I could look up to her, and she was successful, and that was very, very important for me, and talking to somebody who understands your own issues and challenges, and why you're doubting the fact that you belong.
Well, the external thing that helped me was when I first joined, I'd always thought I wouldn't be good enough for the RSC, but my predecessor in the job I took said, "Oh, well, I'm a member, why can't you be a member?" And although I didn't think I was as qualified as him, I thought, well, I suppose we do the, I'm going to do the role you did. So that sort of nudge from somebody who I could compare myself to certainly helped.
I just want to finish with one last question, focusing on the one thing that you will do or change as a result of this new RSC report in order to foster a greater sense of belonging, particularly for underrepresented groups. So this is not anymore about your personal journey, but what is it that you can do for the community and for others?
Well, I'm going to look very carefully at how I make sure when I talk to people about getting involved, I'm clear with them why I would like them to be involved. And I'm going to talk both about what they might contribute in terms of experience or skills or soft skills, whatever it is, but I'm also going to think harder about how will they know they belong if they come to this meeting or this group. What will tell them that they are welcome here? So that might be, oh, if you come along, I can introduce you to Symiah. She's done her degree in Birmingham too. I bet you know some people and places in common, or things that I can do to signal, even if quite superficially, belonging, that will let them feel able to start building up their own contacts and networks for themselves. So that's what I'm going to do with the report.
Thank you, Jane. And Symiah?
Obviously, the lack of sense of belonging is not overtly told to you. No one says you don't belong here, get out. It's by subtle behavior changes and subtle behaviors. And so what I'm going to do and take from this report is monitor my own behavior and see if I'm doing very subtle things that make other people feel like they don't belong. And just be more conscious of where I sit, how I give eye contact, how I interact with a group or an individual. And that's what I would take from this.
Thank you. And Ross?
Well, I'm going to completely reevaluate my position as a STEM ambassador. So I've often gone out to schools and said, yeah, chemistry's fun, exciting career in chemistry, but not really thinking on, but how can we make chemistry open for all from all different backgrounds? So as a STEM ambassador, standing at the front, that's one message I'll be clear about, is that chemistry is for everyone, not just for individuals who are interested.
Yeah, I think it's very important. I think for me, one of the key things of this report is that it's made me reflect on the significant difference between these three key words: diversity, inclusion, and belonging. And I started noticing, reading on the internet, looking at reports, listening to when people talk about this topic, that is very easy to talk about diversity. Diversity can be measured. There are data now. Most companies, institutions, employers present data on diversity. When you start talking about inclusion, I was already aware of the role that, for example, chairing a meeting or senior people can have in making others feel included. But now sense of belonging is taking it to a different level. And recently I gave actually a presentation at a conference. It was a scientific conference. And I delivered a seminar, a lecture on the topic, how can we make research environment more inclusive? And I realized that just by talking to people about the sense of belonging and talking about inclusion, so not diversity aspect, that's a given almost, but this new level which is far more subtle because it cannot be easily measured. This is, I think, for me, has been very important. That's what I'm going to try to do, is to think about the little actions that maybe cannot be directly measured, but can have a very important part. And talking in my role with colleagues, with senior people, but also with younger colleagues, to really alert them and disseminate this finding, because once people reflect on this, on the importance of inclusion and the sense of belonging, I think everybody then can make a difference and hopefully lead to a better environment.